The New York Post dropped a bombshell report last week, or so they thought. Amid a nationwide influx of migrants, nearly 24 homeless veterans were kicked out of hotels where they were being temporarily housed in order to make room for migrants in upstate New York. According to the New York Post. Let's pull up the headline that they published. Vets kicked out for migrants. Outrage as upstate hotels tell 20 homeless veterans to leave. And of course, conservatives immediately took this headline and ran with it. And where else would they run but to Twitter? Donald Trump Jr. tweeted the story out and said, honestly, this is just infuriating. Homeless vets were being booted from New York hotels to make room for migrants. F Democrats and their BS policies. America last isn't hyperbole, it's their goal. Jesus Christ, that man. Nikki Haley, for a person who will never be the president of the United States, also tweeted out the story and said, liberal insanity at work. But the only problem with their tweets and the story itself is that it's complete and utter BS, completely fabricated, utterly false, not real at all. So first, the hotels that the veterans were supposedly booted from told Mid-Hudson News they had no idea what the Advocate YIT Foundation Executive Director Sharon Finch was talking about. Then a local New York lawmaker dug into the claims and concluded that she lied, just lied. So let's get into that. According to the Times Union, over the past week, a sensational story has torn through local and national media. Local nonprofits said homeless veterans under its care had been kicked out of upstate hotels to make room for migrants bussed from New York City. But the story has fallen apart over the past 48 hours, culminating Thursday evening with State Assemblyman Brian Maher, who has been advocating for the veterans in national media and in the state legislature, denouncing it as false in a call with the Times Union. Maher said he was, quote, devastated, disheartened after a conversation with the CEO of the nonprofit earlier in the day revealed that the story wasn't true. He is calling for the organization to be investigated by the state attorney general's office and the Orange County District Attorney. But again, I said this earlier, like all stories, it gets worse. The Mid-Hudson News, and kudos to the local paper for some tremendous coverage on the story, by the way, reported on Friday morning that 7 homeless men had come forward to reveal that Finch approached them at a shelter this week, offering to pay them in cash, food, and alcohol to pretend that they were veterans who had been kicked out of the hotels to make way for migrants. Now, the New York Post did issue a correction. Fox News corrected themselves live on air. However, Nikki Haley and Don Jr.'s tweets remain up as of now. So we have the corrected New York Post headline here. Longtime advocate lied about vets getting out of New York hotels for migrants. And New York City Mayor Eric Adams has also asked for an investigation for the fake report. I think that it's crazy to me that this was able to be published. I know the New York Post is not known for their journalistic integrity or investigative reporting. But this is just completely fake. Like, to just fall for something that, like, usually there's an aspect of truth to their articles, and then they're heavily sensationalized. There is no part of this article that was true whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I guess the homeless folks did a great job. I feel like they should get a bonus for actually convincing the New York Post that this was a real story. This story is so sad from every angle, because on the one hand, it is egregious to make something like this up. It is egregious to then hook, line, and sinker put it on primetime like Fox News did. The die has been cast. The people who saw this story immediately think that Biden is displacing veterans for migrants, so it doesn't matter. They're not gonna actually look into that. But it's egregious also in that here is someone who otherwise worked in veterans issues. And the only way that vets issues get national coverage is when they're pitted against an even worse foe, which is migrants. Now, I know you're saying, Francesca, what do you mean foe? Well, what I mean is that the right doesn't give a F about veterans. They never care about vets. In fact, they demonize vets. Why? Because they demonize the unhoused and the homeless, a large percentage of whom are veterans. They don't care about, they want to forget about veterans. And oh my God, don't get me started if the veterans are not white, which by the way, why do, every time they say vets, they just assume it's some like World War II vet, who's like a white guy. It's like, no man, a lot of vets are also like were once immigrants. You know what I'm saying? So this story is just sort of sad no matter what you look at it, like what angle you look at it from.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.